Church. I wanted to welcome everybody here on this beautiful sunshiny day. And I see from our numbers here that I shouldn't have told everybody I was going to speak this Sunday. I scared them off. See? I guess wagging my finger in people's faces wasn't a good approach last week. I'll have to stop doing that. I'm reminded of a father who was talking to his little girl, and he was actually reading her a Bible story, Genesis 16 or 19:26, in which he said the angel told Lot to take his wife and flee out of the city. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. And this concerned the little girl to the point she had to ask her dad, "Daddy, what happened to the flea?" The angel told Lot to take his wife and flee out of the city. All right. Zing! Took me a while to get it too, so. Let's take just a moment now to send out some healing energy, some prayer, some vibrations that for those who are in need could use a little extra help. Picture them in your mind, but picture them whole, healthy, happy, and complete. And while we're doing that, let's keep in mind those victims, those people that were in the way of Hurricane Harvey down on the coast, and all those people and all their families in that area that were affected by that. And in this we say, amen. Okay, let me begin here with announcements. I'm going to do that first before we do our hymn, and then we'll do our hymn. And that way we can, once we get rolling, we'll just keep on rolling. We'll just steamroller right on through. And by the way, it's a good thing that this is a smaller congregation today, because I was planning on writing everybody a $100,000 check today for those that were here. Okay, those that aren't here, well, okay, they're going to miss out. Our announcements. September 3rd, we had some hamburgers and hot dogs left over from our picnic, so the gals are going to whip up a surprise for us. And as it says in the bulletin, hamburgers, 7 hot dogs. I thought that was some type of prophecy. I wasn't sure, so I figured I better check and make sure that that's what it is. Yeah, we're going to be serving hot dogs and hamburgers after the service.
I told you that was my built-in mistake.
Oh, yes. That's right. She always puts an error in so that the first student that catches it gets a gold star, so I get the gold star.
I'll bring one. I'll see if I can find one up here.
Great, great. Okay, the drumming circles start again in September, resume. Movie nights will resume in September. The EFT workshop now, does somebody have the correct dates on this? I understand that our dates might not be the correct dates for it, or, okay, we're not quite sure on that. The last 2 Mondays of September? Okay. Which, I don't have my calendar on. All right, so it's the last 2 Mondays of September for the EFT workshops. And those are very, very powerful if you want to take advantage of those, to release emotions that are buried within us, sometimes subconsciously. We're not even aware of how they function and work on us. And by the way, that's part of the lesson today, conditioning. What else do we have? Movie night, yeah, we mentioned that'll be starting again in September. The Shack, okay, and it's not, don't show up because you think it's going to be Shaquille O'Neal. It's not. It's from the book called The Shack, and it's a great book. When I read the book, I thought it was phenomenal, and then saw the movie, and usually you kind of get a little disappointment because your imagination is always so much better than the movie is. But in this case, it turned out the movie was phenomenal as well. So take advantage of that one on movie night. Is there anything else that I've missed in the way of announcements? Okay. Well, if not, then let's turn to hymn number 326. Good form today. Love to hear it. All right, let's while we're here together, and let's say our statement of being together. Together, God is all, both invisible and visible. One presence, one mind, one power is all. This one that is all is perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. I am an individualized expression of God. I am ever one with this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. As I did last week, I like to get right into things and get it rolling along so that we can keep the service short and to the point. Okay. And so in keeping with that, I'm going to do the same thing this week. And before we do that, we're going to do the Lord's Prayer so we can get into the feeling, the atmosphere, the emotions of meditation as we sing and pray the Lord's Prayer. let us just relax. Relax our bodies, relax our minds, relax our human consciousness, so that we may spend a few minutes in communicating directly with our Creator, with the Spirit of creation. So we take a nice deep breath in. Exhale. Symbolizing the release of all that we understand in the physical realm right now. We're here in a safe place. We're here in a place that we can release and let go of all the physical, all the emotional, all of the consciousness that we carry around as human beings and everything that we do, so that we can just experience the joy of who we really are and what we really are. Just let our minds wander, connecting with Source, and feeling the energy of that well-beingness that is created, especially for us, especially for you, especially for me. Each easy and smooth, relaxing breath that I take allows me to move closer to experience the joy of just being. Being what I am, the creation from all that is. Being created from goodness, from joy, from well-beingness, from love. I can experience those in my mind as I just relax and let go of all the earthly and worldly concerns, just for these next few moments. I decide that this is what I want. I want to walk hand in hand, arm in arm, with my Creator. I want to experience that unconditional love that was given me. And in turn, I give as I received. I am grateful. I'm appreciative. Of this wonderful experience. It fills my soul with joy. It fills my mind with well-beingness. Fills my mind with health, with happiness, with compassion, with abundance. I am so grateful, so blessed to be a created child of that which is. I want to be so filled with all that you have given me that it oozes out of every pore of my being, of my physical connection, my worldly connection to those around me. Family, loved ones, church family. The family of all the brothers and sisters upon this planet. That seek and enjoy and appreciate all that you have prepared and given for us and to us. For all of this, we say thank you. Thank you. We love you. And amen. Now as we return to this time, this place, this sanctuary of well-beingness, of love, compassion,
to empty my mind of every earthly distraction, so that I may only worship you. God, help me to empty my heart of every false separation, so that I may only worship you. You are my mind, you are my heart, you are my life's only reason. So I let go of all the false gods that I've known. It's you I believe in. God, help me to empty my life of every human illusion, so that I ever deeper devotion, so that I may only worship you, so that I may only worship you.
Good job. Very good. Excellent. Wow, thank you for that beautiful rendition. And by all means, those of you who have a voice like that, feel free to get involved and contribute your talent to what's going on here on a regular basis here on Sundays. Don't feel that you can't join in. Now, if we could set this up so that you could hear me in the shower, I can sing up a storm, okay? But until we can do that, it's a whole other issue. Now, I have to give you the disclaimer, the usual. The following program is not necessarily the views of Unity East Church, the board members, the congregation, and probably not the speaker, okay? And your mileage may vary according to use. Having said that, I'm reminded of a minister who was talking to his congregation. He said, next week, he said, my lesson is going to be on understanding telling lies. And so he said, I want you to all read Mark chapter 17, and so you'll be prepared for that lesson. So the following Sunday, he got up there to talk, and he said, how many of you have read Mark 17 as I instructed? And of course, everybody started raising their hand. Pretty much everybody did. He said, that's a good start because Mark only has 16 chapters. So let me proceed with my lesson on the sin of lying. I wouldn't do that, would I? No, of course not. My lesson is called conditioning, okay? And I'm not talking about this kind, for your hair. I'm talking about the old classical conditioning. Remember the Pavlov's dog? When they would train, they would take a natural response with a natural stimulus and condition an outside stimulus. In other words, they would take meat and put it in front of a dog, then that's a natural stimulus, a natural response for a dog to salivate. Okay, now if you ring a bell at the same time, you condition the dog to salivate when there is no meat present. In other words, you're controlling the dog's behavior by doing that. And that became a very big part of behavioral learning theory. In fact, if I can find it here. Yeah, learning theory was one of the things that is the big deal behind it is an environment teaches us and trains us, okay? And that the body has to respond to the environment. That's where it gets its information, which is all fine and dandy, except the body is not what makes decisions. What makes the decisions? The mind, okay? But we are susceptible to being conditioned. Now, how many of you remember, when I mentioned Pavlov, how many of you remember that from high school psych classes or college and stuff? Hold your hands up again. Okay, I didn't ask anybody to hold their hand up. You were conditioned to do that when somebody raises their hand and says, okay. The old thing, if I say don't think of a blue elephant with pink toenails, what's the first thing you do? Think of a blue elephant with pink toenails. Why? You have to in order to understand what I just said. Okay, the mind does not think in words. We use words to draw pictures in our mind. And so we create with our mind. That's one thing that's kind of left out of conditioning. But there's like 5 keys to classical conditioning, as Pavlov said. But one is acquisition. Okay, how do you go about setting that up so that they acquire this conditioned response? Okay, and of course we just said that's how we do it, is we take a natural stimulus and a natural response, the two of them fit together. You add a conditioned stimulus to it, and that's how you get it. Extinction, that's another key characteristic of conditioning. If you don't keep reinforcing it, it will tend to disappear over time, okay? With the exception of spontaneous recovery, that's another key. Sometimes it'll start fading away if you keep repeating it, and then you let it go. You leave it alone and you come back a week later or a month later or a year later and you apply that stimulus and boom, you get that response again. So that spontaneous recovery is a key to it. Stimulus generalization is another key part of it because if I condition a dog to salivate at the sound of a bell, sometimes if I just make a sound that's similar to that, the dog will respond to it. Okay, so generalization is a part of conditioning that it's not always specific. Okay, it's not that particular one, but there also is the next key is discrimination. Sometimes it has to be that very specific thing that you conditioned them to in order to get that response again. Okay, so that sounds a little confusing. You have generalization, but you have very specific discrimination and stuff. Those are all things that apply to us as human beings. Now, this was all developed on dogs and animals and stuff. But believe me, psychologists and, how can I say this, the people that provided funding for them to do research were very interested in controlling thought, controlling behavior. And so there's been no telling, probably in the trillions of dollars spent over the past 50, 60 years in studying behavior and mind control. Okay. One key element that gets left out of that is our ability to think, our ability to decide for ourselves. Because we can make a decision that will override that conditioning. If we're not thinking about it, though, we automatically fall into. Because the next time I do this, how many of you, you're going to sit there for a second and go, he's going to do that again. I ain't falling for it. Okay? How many of you understand that? So we can be very easily controlled our behavior if we're not paying attention, if we're not focusing what we want out of the deal. And that's basically what it comes down to is we need to ask the question, what do we want? And when we do that, then we take back control over what we're doing. Whatever you accept into your mind has reality for you. It's the acceptance that makes it seem real. We see some things going on today in today's world, in this country and around the world, that just doesn't seem how and I don't want to get into political ideology and stuff. Believe me, that's not where I'm going. What I'm talking about is our own individual control and the habits, the behaviors that we've been conditioned to do. We have some things that just, you wonder, how does that individual or how does that group of people see that as being reality? Because we have a different view, but it's because we've accepted different things to believe in from what they have. So what we believe in is just as real to us because we accepted it as what they've accepted into their mind is just as real to them. So now we have a clash of two realities that couldn't be further apart. Right? So how do we work with that? How do we change it for both parties so that they can come together and say, okay, we have some differences, but I'm the one that decides what goes on up here, not everything out there in the physical world. Okay? And that's tough to do in today's world because for the last 40, 50, 60, 70 years, we've been conditioned to everything, especially in this country, with our consumerism and stuff. How many of you remember this one? Winston tastes good like a... You know that hasn't been broadcast in over 40 years? 40 years. Something like 44 years, I think, was the last time. And yet, you know what? Just like that. Plop, plop, fizz, fizz, oh, what a... It hasn't been on for decades. So we're conditioned to those responses, and they didn't go extinct on us, did they? Okay, what's that mean? Well, it means that as we grew up, as we were raised, we were given certain values about this, that, and the other thing, about life and love and marriage and friendship and school and education and the police and military and politicians and all that. We were given conditioned to certain things because as a young kid, you don't think about that stuff. You know, when I was 6, 7, 8 years old, I was thinking about who's got the baseball, I got the bat, so we can get together and have some fun, okay? But you hear this stuff, your sensory input takes in this stuff all the time, and we're conditioned to a lot of it that we're never aware of. And we get older, and we have accepted, okay, those things, subliminally, if you want to say it that way, we've accepted them, and it becomes our reality. Okay, so I worked in construction for a number of years, about 20 years, and most of the guys in construction, I'm real. You know, I'm all about, let's be real. Let's tell the truth. I mean, right up front, this is how it is. Okay? And they don't have a clue any more than anybody else does. But I'm going to be real about it. I'm not going to have pie in the sky thinking that life is great and life can be good and all that stuff. I know what it is. I'm out here busting my butt so I can pay taxes. They take my money and give it away to other people and all that stuff. Well, here's the deal. If that's your acceptance, what's the reality for that person? Duh. And we do that to ourselves every day of our lives. And we don't stop to think about it. So let me go back to A Course in Miracles, which kind of teaches there's two minds at work. One is who we really are, our spiritual mind, which was created in the image and likeness of the Creator, knows everything, always has, always will, and knows truth. Truth is love. Love is God. They're all synonymous. Okay. The other part of our mind is our human consciousness, our human ego. Okay, and you say, well, okay, yeah, I dig that. What's wrong with that? Well, the problem is they're just the opposite of each other. They're not the same. They're opposite. What we truly are is an extension of love, truth, compassion, honor, abundance. You can go on and on and on. And the human consciousness, the ego, is just the opposite of that. You say, well, maybe I never thought about it in those terms. It's time to do that because we have accepted our human consciousness, our human ego is what and who we are. See, I threw a couple words in there that slipped by you. We accepted. Why? Because we look out with these eyeballs, we listen with these ears, we touch with these hands, and we say, this is real, this is it. Okay? So everything that this has, I accept it, and so it becomes my reality. And it isn't any more real than a child thinking that since they got a cape on, they can fly like Superman. By the way, I tried that one time when I was a kid. I had two older brothers. I was the youngest of three. My middle brother was always trying to kill me. And him and his buddy, I was watching Peter Pan one night on TV, and they came in and they had taken some cigarette ashes and ground it up in their hand. They said, that's the magic dust that Peter Pan uses, but I'll sprinkle some of that and you can fly. So they sprinkled some on my hair, and I got up on the couch, and man, I let out like you wouldn't believe, and I flew, actually, for about half a second, until I hit the floor. But I believed. Any decision of the mind will affect both behavior and experience. Okay? And what you want in life, you expect to get it. And when you expect to get it, where's your faith at? It's all there on what it is you expect to have. So now, where do I want to expect this from? Do I want to expect it from my spiritual side? Or do I want to accept it from my physical side, my ego side, my human consciousness side? Because, put it in simple terms, this is all good. This is all the opposite of good. Now, yes, we can do good things with our human consciousness, don't get me wrong. Okay? Because it's what we use. We use our body to go help deliver things, to help build things, to help move things, to help hug somebody, to help pat them on the back, to help whatever. We use our physical presence for that. But I'm not talking about just our body. I'm talking about the consciousness behind it. And if you get into A Course in Miracles, there's so many psychological dynamics behind that, our ego and our human consciousness. It boggles the mind. Because I guess to be honest about the human consciousness, our ego, it can make up anything it wants and say, this is all logical, it makes sense. Until somebody comes along and points out, well, it's not logical, that doesn't make any sense. And you go, yeah, you're right, it doesn't. But it makes sense to me. Talking about what's going on today, there's people out there that say, I hate people that hate. And it makes perfect sense to the ego. In fact, I hate people that hate so much that I'm willing to harm them. I'm willing to harm them. To the point, if need be, we'll exterminate them. And it makes sense to the ego. Why? Because the ego is insane. It truly is. And the more you look at it like that, the more you go, my goodness, I'm carrying this insane entity, this faculty around with me everywhere I go, and I use it in everything I do because I accept what it says, and it becomes my reality. And if it's my reality, I'm the one that chose it. Right? Nobody else put it on me. Now, there's people that helped me along the way. They suggested this, they suggested that. They say, if you don't want to be a so-and-so, you better not think like that. You better not join that group. You better not vote for that person because you're one of these. And our ego, our consciousness goes, yep, I was right. Makes no sense. The ego is nothing more than your belief about yourself. That's all it is. It's not a powerful entity that can control our lives. In fact, we control it. If you remember, I'm responsible for what I see. I choose the feelings I experience, and I decide upon the goal that I would achieve. It's me. Now, what me is doing it? The real me? Or this ego, human consciousness, me. Because you have a choice. We can do it from either one. And you say, well, why can't I just do it in the middle? Well, that's the ego talking. That's its insanity. Some of you are familiar with programming in computers, and don't take my word for this because I am no computer expert, but underneath the programming and stuff is the binary code. And what that means is there's a series of zeros and ones. And that runs through the processor chips and all that stuff. And by having row after row after row of that, it tells the electrical currents where to go and so forth. It's a rough idea of what it's all about. Okay? But the point is, it's a 0, it's either off or it's a 1, it's on. That's all there is to it. Off, off, on, off, on. That's it. And it's all laid out in a series. Life is kind of like that too. Okay, either we're on in our spiritual mind, or we're off in our human consciousness, in our ego. There's no in between. There isn't a minus or a plus sign or, hashtag. Okay, it's either off or on. And if we understand it, if we really get that deep in our gut, if we really get that deep, then everything that we do becomes much simpler and easier to stay where we want to stay. Because then we don't have to argue with our ego, our human consciousness. Says, well, you know what? You could move that off to a semi-partially on. No. Ego will convince you of that. Why? Because you'll think about it long enough till you accept that. Once you accept it, it becomes your reality. Okay? And we, by the way, we do the same thing with illness, sickness. Okay? We look at something and then we say, well, the body's sick, so therefore I must be sick. No, it's the other way around. Okay? A healed mind produces a healed body. It's cause and effect. Not the other way around, but we believe it's the other way around. Who told us that? Human consciousness. Ego told us that. I'll give you an example. I've told you before about the multiple personality person that would go into a different personality and had no awareness of any other personalities that person would be, just the one that they were in currently. And they would physically change to become that person. If they were in a person that was diabetic, that person would now be diabetic, which didn't have diabetes before it changed personalities. Okay, I've told you it goes into trucker personality, gains and loses 100 pounds in 7 to 10 days. Okay. That's physically not possible, is it? From what side? The off side. Okay. On the spiritual side, on what we truly are, we know that all things are possible. Okay. But people have witnessed this. They've seen it happen. All right, now let me ask you the question then. Is it that person's body changed and then the mind, then it convinced the mind to become that character? Or did the mind change and the body reflected what the mind accepted? Yeah. All right, so now we know. The mind tells the body, the mind can affect the body. It's not the other way around, although we believe it. Experiences I can remember from having little ones, I'd watch them playing. They're out running around having a ball, and the neighbor kids, and they're just out there screaming and hollering and running, breakneck speed, and all of a sudden one of them trips out, wham, bounces their face off the ground or the pavement even, or the floor, and for a second, and you watch them, and they look, and all the other kids are still running and having fun, and they don't want to miss that. They jump up, and away they go. But if they stop looking, they see you looking, going, ah! Everything falls apart. Okay? So that's an example that we just kind of, observe and maybe not think much of it. But that's how the mind can control what's going on. Okay? And then I've seen others fall down and didn't even really trip, just kind of fell and rolled in it. And mom comes running, and the kids screaming bloody murder as though, somebody just hacked their arms and legs off. It's a decision that's made up here. I told you I was going to keep it short, so I'm going to cut off everything I've said here. But Jesus said, my mind will always be like yours because we are created equals. It was only my decision. From where? On or off? He was on. He was on. He said, it was only my decision that gave me all power in heaven and earth. And my only gift to you is to help you make that very decision. Pretty powerful. When we make decisions, when we decide, and we accept that decision, it becomes our reality. So the question is, what do I want? What do I want? Do we ever stop and ask ourselves that? What do I really want? And I'm not saying your position in the world. I'm saying in everything that we do. What do I want? What do I want from this? Do I want to experience this in a joyous way that brings me everything that I could dream of and more? Or do I want to experience this in misery? Do I want to experience it in hate? Do I want to experience it in lack and limitation? Because guess what? It has nothing to do with out here. It's all right here. And is it on or is it off? Which part are we using? Because if we use on, both of them, by the way, have the power to make it seem to be our reality. Just because this side is off and is the opposite of what we truly are, doesn't mean it doesn't have power. It's got all the power that we have. We just have to decide, which do I want? So the question is, what do I want? And then sometimes you say, you know what? I want everybody that thinks different from me dead. This sounds crazy, doesn't it? Isn't that what's going on today? In the country, in the world? Anybody that doesn't think like me, I want them dead. So then, when you say, what do I want? The next question is, what for? What's the purpose? And people that think those things and say those kind of have never got that far in the thought process. What for? Well, so they'll all be gone. And I'll be happy. What would that make you happy? Well, now that you ask, probably not. So what for then? Well, just so everybody that's left will think like me and be like me. You know how bored you'd be very quickly? Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah, you're right. You didn't think much about it. So rather than me going on and on, ask yourself, what do I really want? And then decide. Decide if you're going to do it from on or if you're going to do it from off. If you want to do it from off, that's okay. Don't beat yourself up over that. It just means you're probably not going to find a whole lot of joy, happiness, abundance, sustainability out of that whole thing. You'll get some temporary happiness. I'd rather have joy than happiness. Because happiness is one of those fleeting things that comes. I can be happy. I can remember buying a new car or a new this or a new that. Oh, man, I was happy as a pig in slop. Okay, but that wears off. And now you don't have the happiness. So through our conditioning of Winston tastes good, we think, I got to go buy another one. I got to buy a newer one. I got to buy a bigger one. I got to buy a prettier one. Or I need a younger one. You know, all those things, yeah. I didn't mean that, hon. You know that if you're watching. Okay, I am responsible for what I see. I choose the feelings I experience. And I decide upon the goal I would achieve. Everything that seems to happen to me, I ask for. And I receive it as I have asked. If we can get to that point, personally, each one of us, then we take responsibility and we know it's coming from our mind, and now we have a choice. We can make a decision between this, on or off. And by doing that, we can go exactly where we want and experience exactly what we want in the amounts that we want to experience. And I don't know about you folks, that's exciting to me. You know, I want to feel so good I can't hardly stand myself. I say that all the time, and then I have to tell people, yeah, my wife says the same thing about it. She can't, I feel so good she can't stand me half the time. Sorry, hon, if you're watching. By the way, before I sign off, she's doing great. She had stem cell therapy injected into her knees a week ago Friday. The knees are getting better. At the same time, she experienced some other pain stuff that was going on with changing medications and stuff. But she's on the roll for recovery. And she said to tell you she'll probably be here next Sunday. No problem. So you can look forward. And she wants to say thank you for all the prayers and all the good things that were said and sent towards her and sent her way. So, and I want to thank you for that as well. Thank you very much. Having said that, I am responsible for what I see. And that, my friends, because you're my brothers and sisters, is the truth. Thank you. Well, if we'll have the ushers come forward, we can take our tithes, our offerings, our gifts. That when we operate from off, says everything I give, I am now short of. And guess what? Becomes our reality if we accept that. Whereas our other side that's on says everything I give, I receive. And I can't give enough because it'll just come back to me tenfold, 100-fold. That's spiritual truth and spiritual law. It has to happen. So from our on-side, let's say together, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. Very good. Yes. I say they're much more talented than the moron fish and tackle choir. Yes. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for these gifts, this principle, this law, this spiritual law of giving and receiving, that as we do this from being on to our spiritual law, our spiritual existence, our spiritual reality, we know that this will go forward to be able to give your teachings, your lessons across the country, and specifically here in this church. And this we are so appreciative for, and we say thank you, thank you, thank you, amen. By the way, classical conditioning, Pavlov's dogs, they didn't tell you that when they condition two stimuluses, one for the dog to salivate and another one to have him go sit in a corner, if you introduce both of those stimuluses at the same time, the dog will cower in the corner and shake and shiver and wet itself. But that's a whole other story, okay? There was a lot more to it than what was presented to us in school. Just wanted to pass that along. We don't have any visitors here for the first time, other than, you've never been here before, have you? I didn't think so. There you go. There goes the hand. All right. Well, being a small and dedicated and enthusiastic group, let's rise and sing our peace song. Out into the physical world in our right on mind, we say, the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Amen.